I do like a bit of karaoke. I've definitely done my fair share of that. I quite like doing Baby It's Cold Outside,
Really love it, yeah.
Or I always seem to end up doing Angels by Robbie Williams as well, which is actually a really hard song to sing, so I don't know why.
Hi, Zoe.
Hi, Rob. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How's lockdown for you? Have you survived, or are you surviving?
I am surviving, yeah, like everybody, just getting on with getting on. My kids have gone back to school, which is a huge weight off my mind. My homeschooling was certainly a challenging experience, so that's been a very positive thing this week. But yeah, we're all right. How are you?
Yeah, same here. The kids, well, my kids, I was thinking my kids are at various institutions, which isn't probably a very good word, but yeah, our 13-year-old's gone back to school. My son's at boarding school and the other one's at university. There was 3 of them here last week, which was great. And then there's suddenly no one here and it's like weird. I can't get my head around it.
Yeah, how does it, and how is it with them being that bit older and sort of all contained together in one house? Have you enjoyed it, or has it been a bit...
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? That people say that one of the beauties of it, beauties of lockdown, that's not the right phrase, but one of the most enjoyable aspects has been we've been all together, because our kids are at a stage where Lily's at Glasgow University, Joe's finishing school this year, Tilly's just up the road at school. So I think Joe and Lily, that might be, sort of they'll be off a bit. So I kind of looked at it as almost like our last time together.
To be together, yeah. And actually, when you're sort of, even if you're together, that this kind of sense that you are actually contained, and the only entertainment as such is to either sit together and watch television or actually speak together or go for a walk together. They're quite
that does not happen. That does not happen, because our kids...
That's my little dream up. My kids are only little, so that's like my dream scenario of having teenagers, that they're all going to sit and we're going to watch films together.
You've got it all to come in the sense that my son, he drives me mad because I've 2 sons, an older one, but he was the same. And he sits with his headphones on and sort of, it's that chatting, then everybody's on their phone. Their whole lives, everybody's life is conditioned by social media. That it's just, that's been the most startling thing for me, this lockdown, the way they operate.
And do you have rules attached to that? Do you have sort of no phones at dinner time?
Desperately try.
Yeah.
But I get shouted down, and because I say that's it. This no at the table, but honestly, it's hang on. Billy's on the phone or Amy's on the phone. Hang on, I've got to take this.
I do feel for the teenagers, particularly during this time, because there is that sort of, period of your life where you're starting to get independence, your friends mean everything to you. And so, that is especially now, that's their only link to that, isn't it? Their phone. So yeah, I can imagine that it's a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Tilly went back yesterday and she came back, she said, it's just so lovely to see everybody, even though I've been conducting through iPads or whatever. She said, it's just that physical kind of, whereas though you'll now be, do you do the school run? Do you into that kind of thing?
Yeah, school run is happening again. Obviously, we're all wearing masks and we have staggered times. So different years get picked up at different times. So we're not getting too many people in the school at any one time. So yeah, it has changed. But again, there's no difference really from school and university. My kids are just thrilled to interact with other children. And that's what we all want, isn't it? I mean, as much as we're so lucky to have this ability to kind of connect with each other using technology, there's just nothing it's just not the same as sitting down with somebody, physically sitting with somebody. We're all just going to go crazy towards the end of this year, hopefully, if it all continues to go in the right direction.
I've got to apologise to you because my background is I've been a kind of a sports TV presenter for more years than I care to remember.
I have to say, I did ask if I was going to be asked any sports questions because I was thinking, I don't know.
They didn't tell you. No, but the thing is, do you know what? I feel so bad because I end up kind of stalking you because I watch every single thing you've ever done. I mean, just before we came on here, I was like, These Foolish Things.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm going, oh my God, it's Lauren Bacall.
It's
like,
Lauren
Bacall. Angelica Houston pouring water over the balcony. You getting hit by a light.
Terence
Stamp.
I know.
How old were you then? I don't mean how old, but you must have been quite. Well, you were
my early 20s. Yeah, it was quite early on in my career and it was certainly one of the first jobs I did where I had a leading role and also worked with proper sort of legends of cinema. It was an incredibly daunting experience actually working with those incredible actors. But a long time ago now.
Were you nervous? I mean, or were you sort of that confidence of youth where you just sort of want into it? But I mean, Lauren Bacall, I mean, I was like, well, blooming heck.
I think I'm continuously nervous. I don't think I've ever stopped being nervous. I think it can be a useful thing, but every single job I ever start, I feel nerves about for any number of reasons. But yeah, I think Angelica Houston, I mean, all of them. Obviously, Lauren Bacall is just, such a legend. But I think it was Angelica Houston that I felt most sort of kind of awed by. And she is a spectacular human being, and she's got such charisma, but yet at the same time, the most warm, loving, sort of down-to-earth woman. And Lauren Bacall was actually her godmother,
right?
So they had a beautiful bond actually, which was really nice. And Angelica was on it for quite a long time on the shoot, whereas Lauren Bacall only came for sort of just over a week to do her sort of little bit, and she went off again. But extraordinary, yeah. And I do remember there's a scene in that film which was sort of art imitating life, really, because I was very early on in my career, and Lauren Bacall played a sort of grande dame of the theatre in the film. And there's a moment where I'm sitting at a dressing table and I'm about to go on stage and I'm nervous, and she sort of comes and stands next to me and looks at me in the mirror and sort of says, well, I would give anything to be where you are now. And I remember after filming had sort of cut, she sort of said, well, I feel the same. I'd do anything. And I really remember that so much, because it was, she was an incredible woman, and she told so many stories, and it was, I think for a young actress starting out, really, it was quite overwhelming, but magical as well. Yeah.
Fantastic experience. Can you sing?
Do you know what? I've sung in quite a few of the things that I've been in a sort of...
Because there was Selfridge as well, when you sort of in pink.
I was a showgirl.
I'm going, our musical theatre is calling here.
Oh, no. See, I'm definitely more, if I dare put myself in the same space as her, I'm more of a sort of Judi Dench style singer. Like I sort of quite like to sing. I'm not a sort of belter out of show tunes. I just would not be equipped to do that at all. But yeah, funnily enough, I've played a showgirl in Mr. Selfridge. What was the scariest bit of singing I had to do was I played Desdemona in Othello at the Globe. Wow. And there was a scene where I have to just kind of be sat there and I just start sort of singing this beautiful little ditty. And for some reason, more than anything else in the play, I had huge speeches to do. That was the moment that used to give me because I think as well, being in the Globe, when you can see all these faces just staring at you, it always used to give me butterflies. But no, I'm not a show tunes girl. I'm afraid. Although I would love to be able to belt out a hit or two.
Have you got a karaoke one? Could you karaoke it if push came to shove? And what would it be?
Yeah, I do like a bit of karaoke. I've definitely done my fair share of that. I quite like doing "Baby It's Cold Outside."
Really love it. Yeah.
And, I always seem to end up doing "Angels" by Robbie Williams as well, which is actually a really hard song to sing. So I don't know why I do that. But I'm obviously feeling merry when I'm doing it. So. Are you a karaoke man?
Pardon?
Are you a karaoke man?
Yeah, to be fair, I have done a bit. Do you know what? One of the weirdest ones was I've just come back from the Middle East, where I was presenting various programs in Dubai, and then I went to Qatar, and I ended up on it's not a Christmas show, holiday show in Qatar. I sang That's Life, Frank Sinatra, live.
Oh, wow. That's
I had no rehearsal.
That's got some, you give it welly, haven't you? You've got to commit to that if you're singing that.
Yeah, that's the sort of end of the night one as well, isn't it? But anyway, brush over that one. What else was good things I've seen? Hang on a second. I've got so many questions for you. These foolish things. The Good Traitor. We'll talk about the one in a minute. The Good Traitor. Tell me about the Good Traitor, because I've tried to get. And I love the whole historical. And it's such an unknown story, which I sort of then went and as I did history at university, and it was Second World War was my thing, and so I'm like, I've not come across this. Tell us about the Good Traitor. When can we see it? What are you in it? And it's a fascinating story, isn't it?
It is actually. I'm glad you brought that up, because it hasn't been released in this country yet, but it has had a release in Europe, because it is a Danish film. Although we filmed it in Budapest actually, but it's a Danish film, and it tells the story of Henrik Kaufmann, who was the Danish ambassador in America during World War II. And he was stationed out in Washington, and when war broke out and Denmark were invaded by the Nazis and taken over, he made a sort of one-man stand against them, and said that they basically told him he would have to come back to Denmark, he would have to be imprisoned, he would have to be under Nazi rule, and he made a stand from America and said, I'm absolutely not going to do that. I've got our reserves of gold and I will use it to protect us. And he was advised against this by the rest of the government in Denmark, but he just felt absolutely so strongly that he had to protect Denmark sort of from where he was, and he got the support of Roosevelt at the time as well, and he did, and he sort of managed to sort of broker a deal with America to help protect Greenland, and he sort of made a one-man stand against the Nazis, and he's now hailed as a real hero out in Denmark, and you know, most people know who he is out there, although he's not so well known over here. But he also had quite a colourful personal life as well. And he was married to a sort of very strong-minded American socialite who lots of people felt was the sort of brains behind the operation. But there was some suggestion that he also had an affair with her sister, who I play, Zilla. And so there was this sort of, the story itself is beautifully shot and beautifully.
Yeah, it's beautifully shot. From what I've seen of it, that was the thing that struck me first of all. Fantastic, really captures the feel of the whole era.
Yeah, we shot it on film, which is, you know, really rare these days. And the costumes were beautiful. It was quite something actually to go to Budapest, which is a beautiful city in its own right, but to actually then use some of their incredible old buildings and create the Oval Office and create, you know, scenes from Washington. It was a real joy to be a part of. And yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be released soon. I don't actually know if there's a release date yet, but I know it's done incredibly well over there. And I think they have a big awards ceremony called the Robert Awards, and it's won loads of those. So I think it's going to be something that they will want to, release out here as well. So fingers crossed that happens.
I've got to go off at a tangent here because my wife is Hungarian. We've got a place in Budapest.
Oh, how amazing!
Gosh, I knew we were joined at birth from a different kind of thing. I absolutely adore Budapest. I love it. How long did you spend there?
You spend a lot of time out there, do you?
I have to. For years and years and years and years and years. I can't speak a word. The language is impenetrable. See, in our house, all our kids speak Hungarian. So when there's a row on with me or with my wife or somebody, I get cut out. They all start speaking Hungarian, so I get picked on. But
you should have learned it. You should have been learning it. It is so hard. Impossible. It is impossible. I remember sitting on the makeup bus, and we had these brilliant Hungarian makeup artists who spoke very good English, but occasionally they would just kind of talk to each other in Hungarian. And I mean, you literally could not decipher anything. It's just a very, very tricky language. But yeah, I loved it. I was actually filming when we did that. I was filming a series Liar at the same time. So I was kind of filming them both concurrently and having to sort of fly backwards and forwards. I mean, goodness me, those were the days, right? I mean, it feels like a distant dream now that you used to do things like that. But yeah, so I was on and off out there for, I don't know, maybe a month, I guess. So I didn't have a lot of downtime because I was kind of having to come back again. But yeah, I certainly, you know, and I had been there before when I was a student. I'd sort of traveled around there, but it's changed hugely. And
yes.
and it's just so magnificent. I mean, that river, everything that sort of lines that river is just so incredible and beautiful. And yeah, I'd love to spend more time out there. Yeah.
They say the language is so hard. It's the only language in the world. Is if you go to the toilets and it says male or female, you can't tell which one. It's the only language. You just don't know. You can't. Anyway.
Yeah, how extraordinary. Yeah. So your children speak fluent Hungarian, do they?
Yeah, my son's middle name is Puskás. Ferenc Puskás is one of their most famous sons. He was one of the greatest footballers and the great history. He fled Hungary when the Russians came in 58. And Ferenc Puskás. So my son is Joe Robert Puskás McCaffrey.
Oh, yeah, lovely.
Enough of that. I wasn't going to ask you this, but I will ask you now. How difficult is that if you're playing, you know, one part in Hungary in a completely different kind of film to then go back to Liar, which is, well, two countries, two totally different things, two totally different characters. How do you do it? Do you sit on the plane and go, right, halfway there, I'll go, right, I'll just change back into this?
Yeah. I mean, it's just yeah, it's about headspace, I think, and it's also about being really organized. I think you need to really know the scripts well. I think that's true of anything that you're in. You know, I scour my scripts and I literally pore over them time and time again before a job, so that I just feel like I know that world inside out. And I think that's the key, probably, when you're doing, you know, jobs concurrently. I remember the one problem, actually, just come back to me doing those two together, was that for Liar, I had I played the series. It was series 2 of Liar that I was filming, and my character was going through a particularly hard time. She was drinking too much. She'd split up from her husband. She was not looking after herself at all, and I had really bad hair, and I sort of had blonde sort of highlights, and then I had lots of roots in it. And of course, in 1940s in America, the fashion was not to have that kind of style of sort of patchy hair at all. You had these, you know, beautiful kind of if you were going to have bleached hair, it was absolutely perfect and all one color. And I remember sitting for the first time in the makeup bus in Budapest and showing the lovely makeup lady my dreadful hair and saying, you know, what can we do about it? Because I you know, the Liar job had started first, so I had to keep that hair. There was nothing they could do. And she just said, all she said to me, she was like, I think I'm going to cry. She just said, and I said, oh no, what are we going to do? And she, I mean, through her total artistry and genius, she made the best of it, and she, you know, put it into these incredible styles and curled it and painted bits in and made it look beautiful. But yeah, I do remember her sort of horror at seeing my hair. So that was the difficulty of filming two things at once.
You passed a lovely 2 hours for us last night. We watched Marple. Hang on, let me just get you.
Thank you. Goodness me, you've been
red lipstick, the whole thing. But you know what we did watch? I've got to ask you about this.
Yeah.
And this was a hard watch, actually, was Standstill. Because,
yes.
Because my wife suffered from postnatal depression after our third one, Tilly. And so I was lying, as is my wont, on the settee with sort of on the iPad watching it. And she was sitting across the room. Yeah. And she I didn't say what I was watching, you know, and she, you know, the baby crying and et cetera, and she found it even really hard sitting on the sofa, not watching it. Tell me about Standstill and why and what does it mean to you, because you wrote it as well, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm so sorry to hear that your wife went through that, and it is, I would say that if anyone wants to watch it, it is a bit triggering. So you need to be careful if you've had experience of postnatal depression or you're going through it now. Yeah, it's a very a subject that's very close to my heart too, because I also suffer from postnatal depression after both my children, actually. And when I was going through it, and you know, my eldest is now almost 10, and so it was quite a long time ago now, and I think things are really changing in the conversations surrounding all mental illness, but particularly illness surrounding pregnancy and birth are changing, and lots of people are talking and speaking out now. But certainly 10 years ago, I had no preparation for what I was kind of hit with. And it was such a sort of shock to me because I'd never really had any experience of mental illness prior to that. And also we're, as a society, still, I think, fed quite an idealized image of motherhood. And when that image isn't realized, it's a total shock to the system. And so when I kind of got through it and recovered from it, I sort of couldn't quite believe that I hadn't seen this experience, which actually affects 1 in 5 women in this country. I couldn't believe that experience hadn't been depicted, or I certainly hadn't seen it on screen before. And then unfortunately I had exactly the same experience again, second time around with my second child. And again, and obviously I was much more prepared that time, but I still had no easy access to help. It was still a struggle to get the kind of support I needed, despite having a very good support network sort of with my friends and family. To get professional help was quite tricky. And then a friend of mine about the same time also had a baby, and she also had dreadful experience with postnatal depression. And suddenly we were just kind of sat there going, hang on, this is in our own small circle, and it's happened, happening in such a regular basis. This needs to be spoken about. We need to do something about it. And so we started kind of toying with the idea of writing a film. And meanwhile, I'd also become an ambassador for a local charity called Mum's Aid, and I wanted to support them as well and do something that I felt could sort of highlight this issue. So yeah, we wrote this film, which is about a woman who's actually a GP, who is seemingly got the perfect life. She lives in a nice house. She's got a good job. She's got a loving husband. And we really wanted to highlight how it doesn't discriminate. This illness does not discriminate. It can affect absolutely anybody. And so, yeah, we made that film we got some funding from the BFI. And we also had a Kickstarter to raise some funds as well, and we made it. Funny enough, I was also doing that and sort of filming that in between The Good Traitor and Liar. It was all kind of happening at once, and we got it out, and it was premiered at the London Film Festival. And ever since then, we've sort of used it really as a platform to kind of stimulate debate and to get people talking and to sort of try and help address the stigma that still surrounds sad mums. Now, people don't like to talk about sad mums. It doesn't suit people. It doesn't fit well into the image of motherhood. So it's such an important topic to discuss.
I genuinely think we could talk about this for about 2 hours.
Do you mind me asking if your wife got help? Did she get the support?
Well, what I was going to say is why I think the film's so good is it's 16 minutes long. It nails it. It just nails what it is. And the thing about Beata, my wife, is we didn't know about it. She didn't know about it. And then when somebody actually, I can't remember who, somebody said, I think Beata got postnatal depression. You sort of go, of course, of course you have.
Exactly. Why didn't you know about it? Why didn't I know about it? Yeah. Why don't people know about it? It should be a discussion that all women are having and all men are having, supporting their partners. Prior to, it should be part of the whole pregnancy journey to discuss it. And you don't want to scare women and you don't want to sort of worry people, but it is a very common occurrence. And it's not just postnatal depression. There are all sorts. There's postnatal anxiety, there's prenatal anxiety and depression, there's psychosis, which is an even more extreme version. There's so much, mental illness surrounding birth and pregnancy that it has to be something that we continue to shout about, really.
Wow. Wow.
Get me talking, and I will end up talking a lot about that. So you probably do want to veer me off.
It was absolutely
watching it. I really appreciate that you've taken the time to watch it and to speak about it, because that's exactly what we hope.
It's one of, do you know what it is? It's one of those that if you could actually, you don't want to scare mums. Of course you don't. But if you could go, here, I'll just have this, that possibility is there. 16 minutes of this is what could happen, it happens to anybody, but also that lovely bit, you just kind of need somebody to talk to as much as anything, don't you? That sort of that bit at the end.
I think it's just about about people having the acknowledgement of going, okay, it's not me, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
Other people go through this again as well. And also, absolutely, the main message is to say that this is something that women recover from. Like, unfortunately, it's still the biggest killer of suicide is still the biggest killer of new mothers. Like, that is a horrendous statistic, but it's also something that you absolutely recover from with the right help. And so, there is, as much as it's a dreadful thing to experience, and I certainly still sort of, feel traumatized at times by that experience, but I've definitely recovered, and women do. And I've spoken to many women who have gone on to have, incredible bonds with their children and incredible experiences as mothers. So I hope people get the help that they need if they need it.
Stand still to watch everybody. Okay, I think you're a psychic, in the sense that what did I watch? Affinity, which was an interesting role, to say the least. But I'm thinking, then I'm going, Zoo, which I can't find, but I love the trailer. Yeah. And so you're in, and then you're in, I was watching, I kept laughing to myself, Night Flyers, because you were on Zoom before anybody was on Zoom. Either when there's pandemics before anybody knew what a pandemic was. Okay.
I know.
Oh my gosh, this woman. And then you sort of played it was Selena Dawes, wasn't it? And you were a sort of psychic kind of person. I'm going, blooming heck, she's way before her time. This woman here.
Yeah, maybe. Goodness, what have I been up to recently? Perhaps I can predict what's about to happen.
I know.
Well, my most recent thing that I've just filmed is set in a prison, so I hope that doesn't I hope that doesn't sort of say anything about what your future is or mine.
Oh gosh, no, please, no, let's do that. What is it about you, when I look at you in different what is it about you can play so many different type of roles? Do you sort of look at your face and go, oh, this is a face that can play, I'm watching The Musketeers when you were sort of very know.
Goodness me, you have watched so much. Thank you.
But you can play. Then you can play.
I don't know, but lots of. You know what? I don't know. I think it's one of those. Perhaps it is to do with your appearance. I don't know, but I definitely am one of those people that gets stopped by people not knowing necessarily who I am, but just thinking that they know me. Like that's what I get.
About this. Tell me about this. This is interesting. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, even the other day we were having one of our any number of walks that we've done in this last year. We were walking through a woodland, and my little boy was wanting to take pictures of all the dogs that we met on our walks. He was like a little project for himself while we were walking, and we met two separate sets of people who both, when we stopped and just kind of chatted to them at a distance, said, "Oh, goodness, where do we know you from? I think." Did we work together, or then I remember being at a concert once in the queue for the toilets, and someone saying to me, we worked in a bar together, do you remember that bar in Clapham? And I was like, no. And you sort of never want to assume that it's because they might have seen you on the television, but at the same time you sort of go through this whole rigmarole of going, no, maybe you know my brother, maybe and it's just a bit of a waste of time, really. But yeah, I do sort of feel like I've had a lovely opportunity to play lots of different roles, and I've always had quite a different look in lots of the roles I've played. So it does feel like I've got a face that can kind of mould itself. Thank goodness.
Yes.
It's a good quality to have as an actor.
And a persona as well, in the sense that, you are playing sort of femme fatales in, say, Musketeers, or, the gorgeous looking woman, etc. And then, you're in Liar with your hair all over the place. I mean, that's a talent, isn't it? And it's I don't know, they say actors chameleons. That's very chameleon-like, I think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously so much of that is to do with the brilliance of makeup artists and costume designers. But I do like to have those discussions around characters when I'm playing them. I really enjoy those, working with costume designers and makeup artists who want to kind of share that.
You love a costume, don't you? You love a costume.
I love a costume, and I have done my fair share of costume dramas, although not for quite some time. I think The Good Traitor was the first time I'd done a costume drama for maybe 8 years or something. I spent my 20s kind of never being able to get into anywhere near the 21st century, and now I'm sort of back into modern day again. But yeah, I do. It does help with your character. Even in the one, you know, my character kind of wears these. You won't have noticed them necessarily because they're not that special, but they're just these big, strong biker boots. And there was something about, you know, putting on your biker boots that you suddenly went, yeah, okay, here I am. I know who I am. I'm the detective. I can do this. So it does feel like it has quite a strong effect on your performance.
I think you said before, are you a worrier? Do you worry?
Yeah, I am actually. I am a worrier. I think it's just, I think I've always been a bit like that. And I think it's perhaps born of the profession as well. You know, it's a crazy profession, and I've been in it for a long time, and you sort of feel, and you do to a certain extent, develop this kind of thick skin that everybody talks about with in relation to kind of auditions and rejection and all of that sort of thing. But I have a sort of innate sensible streak in me, and I think, you know, I always had that, and I always slightly resented it as a sort of when I was younger and a teenager, because I always wanted to be more rebellious, but I never could quite push that button because I just knew kind of in my, you know, I had this sort of sensible side to me. And I think sometimes when you know, throughout my career, I've always thought, you know, this doesn't actually suit my personality, this career, this kind of lifestyle where you don't really know what's coming up next and you can't plan for anything. It's not always that conducive to my brain, but I've stuck with it, and I love it. So it's worked out.
Do you like watching yourself back?
No, I don't. I never watch myself on set. I know some actors, when you're actually filming, you do a scene and then actors sometimes like to go back behind the monitor and watch the scene that they've just filmed. And I literally couldn't even bear to do that. Not because it's not a vanity thing. It's just, I just want to be able to respond naturally in the scene, to absolutely feel like I'm behaving in a way that isn't hampered by anything I've seen already, and that I just want to feel sort of really in the moment with the person that I'm acting with, which sometimes when you talk about acting, it can be a bit cringy, but I do think sometimes if you have too much awareness of what's going on around you or what you look like or any of those things, it can affect your performance, or certainly it does affect me. So I definitely steer clear of that. And then when it comes out, it's the first time of watching it, I you know, there's a sort of tendency with jobs that you have filmed, they usually do some sort of screening for cast and crew once you've filmed, and I always find those slightly galling, really, because people are excited, and then people want a response from you immediately. So you watch it and they go, what did you think? And the first time of watching, I'm just going, oh, goodness me, is that how I say things? Is that what I sound like? And I'm cringing. And then if I've seen it again, I can normally be a bit more objective. So yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? I think it's a weird one. The whole joy of the job for me is actually doing the job. It's not necessarily the end product, weirdly, but I hope everybody else enjoys it.
What do you like? What do you like directors that say, do that again? Can you just do that again? Do you do that? Do you like doing lots of takes, or do you just like going and do you know, and do you have clashes where you think, oh, I've nailed that, I can't do that any better? Because I find that I hate if I knacker up me first and they go, can you just do that again? And it's only once. I just go, and I always. What about you? How do you read it? I think quite sort of.
Obviously it's an ideal scenario if you're working with a director that you trust, and you know that you can feel that trust very quickly, I think, as soon as you start working. And if you're working with someone that you trust, and you trust their taste, and you trust their instincts, I am happy to be totally led by them. But what's also interesting is I do love it when a director goes, we've got it. Like, I know, like, sometimes, and that is sometimes on the first take, and it's sometimes on the 8th take. But if they've got the the sort of courage to kind of go, we don't need to do it again, we've got it in one take, that's absolutely fine, then I love that, because I do think it's a bit hit or miss sometimes. And sometimes what you feel is a good take doesn't always translate on screen. So it's great if you have found a good relationship with a director that you can trust, who can really see what's being translated onto screen.
Does it matter that you like the people you work with, and like as in trust, like them as people? Does that help your performance, or doesn't it matter?
Yeah. I mean, I think it does. And again, another huge part of the job for me is about the people that you're working with, and with every job that you do, you're meeting 100 new people possibly, and there's nothing better than feeling, because you do long hours and you do work sort of very closely with people, there's nothing better than feeling that sort of connection, and with the crew and with the cast. And so yeah, I think it's, on the whole, it's brilliant if you get that lovely affinity with people, but it can be there can be sort of downsides to that as well. I mean, I'm a terrible giggler, and if I get on too well with somebody and we have a little bit of a spark between us, then I'm awful for getting the giggles and then not being able to stop and then feeling like I'm letting everyone down. So yeah, there's got to be a bit of professional sensibility as well.
It must be really sad when you're on, say, Liar or whatever, or you're on a shoot for a while, when you all go, when you're all good. And it happens a lot, doesn't it? That's. I mean, I've worked on shows where I've loved it, and then you think it comes to the end, and it's going to change. You're like, oh God. I
know, it is really sad, actually, and I think when I first started out in the business, and I kind of met all these new people, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be friends for life with these people. And that is a genuine sort of feeling. But at the same time, you couldn't possibly maintain all of those relationships because you just meet too many people. But it's lovely if you do make a really good bond with one or two people that you stay in contact with. And actually, in some respects, the sort of age of social media that we're living in does allow you to keep much more in contact with people. And, all of my the people that I follow are all sort of, there's so many makeup artists and members of crew and all of those people that I've worked with, that it's so lovely to actually be able to still see what they're up to and say hello every now and again. So yeah, it's certainly, if you've had a lovely experience in a job, it can be incredibly sad to sort of say goodbye to them. Yeah.
Listen, I'm conscious I'm keeping you here. I better ask about The One.
Oh yeah, please do. It starts tomorrow.
Once again, I sort of, we'll talk about. Have you seen it all? Are you nervous? I've
seen it all. Have you seen it all or not?
No,
you haven't seen any of it. Oh, good. But
what happens? You see, I'm more fascinated. No, I'm not more fascinated, but I'm fascinated to go. You're watching it, and then people ring, because it's a binge watch, isn't it? You can watch the lot. And do people ring you? And are you worried that people might go, "Oh, this is"?
Well, it's interesting because obviously when you're doing something that's on, BBC or ITV or Channel 4, one of those channels, it's going to come out. Most people still, or lots of people still, kind of watch those shows weekly, and so it's coming on at a certain time, and you can kind of, you do get the texts and you do get the phone calls. But when it's a binge-worthy show like this, and it's on Netflix, when it's just going to be dropped, and you can watch 1 episode or 8 episodes all in one go, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't know, really. I don't know the answer to that. I think, I will get a flurry of excited texts from my family and friends, because I've got a lovely group of people who always are excited to see me on the screen. And of course, social media as well. You sort of, you're slightly open to the elements there too. But it again, I feel like I'm telling you that I'm a very incredibly anxious person, which I am a worrier, but I'm pretty sturdy as well.
Yeah.
It is an odd sensation knowing that people can watch the whole thing. It feels like, up until it drops, it's just your own private little experience that you've had with a group of other people, and then suddenly, everyone's going to be able to have an opinion on it, and that's kind of exciting and quite scary as well, I think.
Go on, tell us about it. What's it about?
Okay, so the premise is that it's set in about 5 years into the future. And we happen upon a society that has made huge advances in the way that people meet each other. Scientists have discovered that they can match people using their DNA to their perfect soulmate. So you submit a sample of your hair, and it gets gets put in this huge database, and then you get matched with your one true love, which kind of sounds
brilliant. Brilliant. You wouldn't have to sit in bars thinking I've got cabbage in my teeth and all that kind of thing.
Terrible dates with people where you're ringing your friends.
Straight away, done. Brilliant.
Exactly. But there are quite a few ramifications to it, because of course it's not just the sort of lovely single people who are desperately searching for love that are taking these tests. It's also people who are already in relationships, and what's happened is people have taken this on board in their droves. It's a bit like the age of social media. People have all gone, yes, we want to do this. People are so intrigued by it, and so it's starting to actually change the fabric of society. It's changing how people relate to each other. And of course, some of those situations are not going to be happy ones, unfortunately.
And who do you play?
So I play Detective Inspector Kate Saunders. And you see her at the beginning taking the test for the first time. She decided she wants to do away with the rigmarole of dating, and she takes this test and finds out very early on in the series that she's matched with a woman who lives in Spain, so she's not even in the same country as her. So they but they're very happy to be matched. They've got an instant connection, and they arrange for this woman to come over to England, and they're getting ready to meet each other. So that's sort of where we meet her. And then on the other side, you have there's a sort of thriller aspect to the show where this crime takes place, which turns out it's intrinsically linked to the one, which is the business behind this matchmaking service. Specifically, there's a link to the woman who runs it, a woman called Rebecca Webb, who Hannah Ware plays. And so I get drafted in my role as a detective inspector to investigate this crime. And so my sort of personal and professional lives start to overlap, because I'm investigating the business that I've also just submitted my DNA to.
Fantastic.
So it all gets very complicated and dark, and I start honing in on this mysterious woman who has quite a lot to answer for.
Last one for you, because I know you've got the school run and whatever you're doing to do, and watch your fantastic show, the one that's going to happen tonight.
Thank you.
Your great aunt Sybil was a dancer with George Formby.
How do you know that?
When I'm cleaning windows, George Formby.
Yeah.
George Formby.
So, okay, brilliant. I love this that you know this. So yeah, my
ancestry show as well. What's it called? Who do you
think you are?
Yeah, who you think you are?
I would love to do that. Yes, I would love anyone out there who works on that show. I'd love to do that. So Great Aunt Sybil.
So would I, by the way. I'd like to do that one as well.
So we could do it. So Great Aunt Sybil. So my family all on my mother's side all hail from Grimsby. My great-grandfather was part of a travelling theatre company that sort of ended up in Grimsby, actually, and kind of he lost all his money on a bet, and he ended up staying there and setting up this theatre company. Meanwhile, my great aunt Sybil was a dancer. She was in the chorus line for George Formby, and she actually married his piano player. So it was. Oh, I've lost your face. Hang
on a sec. I'm back.
So yes, I always I always love hearing stories about
fantastic story.
Because actually my immediate family aren't involved in my industry at all. So it's quite nice sometimes to think that there is a little bit of a genetic link somewhere along the line.
Where she gets it from, they'll all be saying, that's where she gets it. Yeah. Hey, listen, do you know what?
What?
Thanks.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. It's been lovely meeting you.
Oh, it's so lovely to talk to you too. And I'm sorry I wasn't up for answering any sports questions, but you answered some lovely
We'll do that next time. Listen, I hope everybody loves the one. I'm sure they will, and we'll follow your career with great interest, and hopefully speak to you again very shortly as well.
Well, thanks so much, and thank you for taking the time to watch everything and to comment so brilliantly on it all. So thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Lovely meeting you, Zoe. Take care.
You take care. Bye-bye. Bye.